Coon Project Solutions, a modern engineering and construction firm, embracing technology, establishing industry-leading systems and processes, and delivering reliable results to our customers. At Coon, we are passionate about inspiring our team and our customers to achieve great things, offering the highest quality services as an industrial contractor to deliver turnkey projects. Our core beliefs drive us forward. Protect people, build relationships, drive innovation, and focus on end goals, bringing our customers' desired results to life. See how Coon can work for you at Think Different, thinkcoon.com.
I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans. And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field. Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
What is up? Tournament time. Let's go. Ladies were in Kansas City last week. Got cut off at the quarterfinals. Hopefully the Iowa State men can fare just a little bit better, make a little longer run in Kansas City this week. Iowa State has won 5 of the last 10 Big 12 tournaments in men's basketball, which is incredible. So we're planning on having a long stay there, and then we're going to do it all over again next week in the round of 64 and 32, and hopefully keep on trucking, baby. Our March coverage, our postseason coverage of the Cyclones, being presented by 4 incredible companies who I've worked with a long time: Country Landscapes out of Ames, Fairway Meat and Grocery, Central States Roofing, and Coon Project Solutions. I want to talk about my friends at Central States Roofing real quick. These guys are awesome. Locally owned and operated. 56 years of business now, where they've been serving our local communities. You can get the best Iowa roofing service from the top roofing company of Iowa. Central States Roofing is that. They have 3 convenient locations in Des Moines, Ames, and Fort Dodge. Check them out at csrroofing.com. And of course, my friends at Country Landscapes, man, I don't want basketball to end, but I'm ready for spring. I'm not going to lie. And I love being outdoors, and I've had my friends at Country Landscapes do work for us a bunch of times, 4 or 5 times on my home. Done like landscape. Last year, they extended my driveway, which is really cool. We get compliments on that all the time. They have locations in Ames, Clear Lake, Des Moines, North Liberty. Country Landscapes can help you with any type of design or build project for your outdoor living space. Residential, commercial, they do it all. Country Landscapes, baby. All right, let's get to Nigel and Dylan for our Big 12 tournament preview show. They're going to go down the bracket, break it all down, some Cyclone talk as well. The tournament starts on Tuesday, so a quick turnaround here, and we're going to get going. We'll see you guys down in Kansas City. Hand it off to my friends Dylan and Nigel. They're going to do a great job here in our Big 12 tournament preview show.
Welcome to Let Him Cook. We are previewing the Big 12 tournament this week for some CF post-game coverage. Right off the bat, I want to thank the sponsors in the corner of the screen. If you're watching this and if you're listening, we got Central States Roofing, Fairway, Coon, and Country Landscapes. Just want to shout out the sponsors off the top. Nigel, you are fresh off the interstate, coming back from St. Louis. I was lucky enough to go down to Arch Madness and really got a preview of like a lot of good Power 6 transfers, and I'm sure a lot of these guys are going to transfer out to bigger and better schools, which sucks for the Valley, but you saw a good game. The 2 best teams, I think, you and I was right with those kind of top 2, Bradley and Drake all year. But what were your thoughts on Arch Madness? I really do like that conference tournament.
It was good. I was shocked to see per se the lack of Drake fans there. But yeah, still decent turnout. The fans that were there were very loud. I did toss on a Duke crew neck, hoping no one would notice that it said Duke. Sure. And I cheered for the Bulldogs. I'm sorry, but overall it's just a good environment. It definitely it definitely like opened up a bug in me that I kind of want to start doing this every year of like going to different tournaments, and kind of planning for it like ahead of time, like in January, just like maybe go to the Big 12 one year, or maybe go to the Big 10 one year, maybe go to the SEC one another, just because they're all like in pretty doable locations, because they always have to be like in a very friendly location where everyone can meet up from the conference.
Kind of a central. Yeah.
So like I feel like they're all feasible areas to travel. So definitely want to try to do that more often. But for a mid-major, conference basketball tournament that is on really during a very competitive week of basketball. I mean, you're on during a lot of people's rivalry games. Like it's tough to hold your own, but they managed to do so. So I was very impressed with the event and very impressed with the basketball I saw.
Yeah, Drake punching their ticket. I think maybe 5 teams by the end of Sunday have officially punched their ticket. Omaha playing St. Thomas right now. St. Thomas, I just want to get this out of the way. I think maybe the dumbest rule in all of sports is the ineligibility that teams get when they join D1, that they can't go to the tournament. I think it's like the first 4 or 5 years that they're D1.
Yeah.
What are we doing that for? Like, if they are good enough to win a conference, why are they not good enough to play in March Madness?
I don't know, man. I think it's to give more cushion room to the people, the Kansases of the team, the people that were expected to be good, but had an off year so far, so that they can make, or even a UConn. Like they have not had the year they wanted to have, and I think if you're a little too opening to just every mid major, I think some of those teams with higher profiles can get pushed to the side. I don't think that's good for business at the end of the day, even though I definitely think those schools are definitely worth giving that opportunity, if you know what I mean.
Let's talk a little bit about Kansas State. Like I said, most of this show is going to be previewing the Big 12 tournament. There's a lot to go over. The bracket is set in stone. We know Iowa State's path. We know the seed of everyone. But let's talk about Iowa State, Kansas State. I would say between Kansas State, the loss at home, and the loss to Oklahoma State, those are probably the 2 most regrettable losses, or the 2 that you look on the schedule and you're like, man, how did that happen? And to get, a lick back against that man on your screen, Jerome Tang, and Kansas State, Octagon of Doom, their senior night, I think really David and Gesson was kind of the only, Coleman Hawkins is a senior, but that dude was a fan at an Illinois game earlier in the year, so I wouldn't say he bleeds purple and silver. Just like, I don't know. I felt like a comfortable game, start to finish. And maybe let's start with Keyshawn. That was, you're kind of thinking like nightmare. You're going back to last year. Our last game was at Kansas State. We lost that game going into Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament. Literally like kind of in the same spot. Kind of feels like Iowa State's limping to the finish. You're without Keyshawn, who's kind of been in and out of injury. Really good response, though, from Iowa State.
Yeah, no, I think, honestly, for not having Keyshawn, I kind of got into this mindset of like, well, for down a guy, we're just not going to be the same team that we know we are. So obviously to see the boys come out there and play, obviously just their brand of basketball, and Curtis really get back to his old self. A Curtis that I hadn't really seen in a while, of just being that efficient, being able to make big time shots, big time plays, and really stuff up the stat sheet. Overall, I was just really impressed with the effort, because it seemed like kind of an effortless win when it seemed like we hadn't been able to get one of those wins in a long time. So it's glad to hit the reset button, obviously. I know it's the end of the year, and bodies are banged up. So I think at the end of the day, to be able to just turn the page into postseason on a positive note, and not have to, milk one out here in Manhattan is probably the best situation we could be in right now, given the tough February we had. So definitely proud of, obviously, the effort. A little disappointed in the technical foul given to my boy Nate Heisey over that 6-3 celebration. Just another example of Big 12 refs just being, complete knuckleheads. And when will the madness end? That's my question to the people of America. But yeah, overall, just great win. I'm glad we can go off into the tournament, obviously, on a positive note. A little worried about being a 5 seed, given that Houston is the 1 seed, because I know eventually we're gonna have to cross paths with them. If I was gonna have to cross paths with them, would love for it to be in the championship. But we've done this before, and I think kind of the I think the closest team to compare this team to this year is the 2019 Iowa State team with Halliburton, Mario Shayok, Michael Jacobson. Like I think the talent is like this team could be a 1-2 seed, but because the dice hasn't rolled our way a few times, now we're playing kind of from behind, and it's kind of like we're not the most mid team for being a 5th seed, if I'm making sense right now.
Yeah, I think it's always a weird situation when your seed in the conference tournament is lower than what your seed is probably going to be in March Madness. Mm-hmm. And I know there's obviously a lot less teams in the Big 12 than there is in a March Madness tournament, but being a 5 seed and then probably a projected 3 seed in the tournament, it just feels weird. The one difference I would say, that 2019 team had some demons, and like not like demons that like are good on, basketball. It's like had some internal strife. And like, I don't think this team has that. I think it's been a lot of like injuries and just kind of things that are really out of their control to a degree. I mean, you can't totally prevent someone from getting injured. So, but like you said, it feels like this team is just as talented as anybody in the Big 12. I do want to shout out Nate Heisey, who has really turned it on in kind of the last third or even quarter of the season. And last year we saw Curtis Jones like flip a switch kind of in mid-January, and it felt like Heisey's came early mid-February, where the last probably 4 or 5 games, he's getting close to double-digit points every single game. Curtis Jones, like you said, really good game against Kansas State. Kind of looked, I said multiple times during the game, oh, that looks like January Curtis, or that, that looks like the Curtis we've been missing. And 11 from 12 from the free throw line, that's another. He was being aggressive. He was forcing the issue. And depending on how healthy Keyshawn is, I think we're really going to need both those guys to continue to play great basketball in Kansas City. Let's start with the game before our first game, which is Oklahoma State and Cincinnati. And here's the thing, Nigel. I know we probably aren't getting the national praise for how deep the Big 12 is, but Oklahoma State beat us, and I watched Cincinnati live. That team is really talented. I was really impressed with their backcourt. They've got Trey Mitchell, the transfer from Texas, who's just kind of a versatile wing post, can kind of play in and out for them. Like, I don't think whoever wins that, I don't think we have a cakewalk into BYU on Wednesday. And that's why, like you said, I would much rather have gotten that double bye, because, let the, we would have been the 4 seed, let the 5 seed deal with them, and then we'll play whoever. But Iowa State, is there a team you're leaning towards on who you would rather see come out of that Cincinnati-Oklahoma State game?
Probably Oklahoma State, just because that seems like a very, why the hell did we lose that game in the first place type of game. And it'd be, I guess, for morale purposes, it'd be a lot better to just get a lick back from them as opposed to Cincinnati, because we don't really have much to prove to Cincinnati. So that could be kind of a setup game where it's like, we lose that game, now we're kind of out of luck until, it really is now or never time, and come the big dance. So obviously, you and I talked about how, earlier in the year we found honestly, the Big 12 tournament probably wasn't that important if we had the regular season championship, if that was obtainable. Since that has not been, I think you and I's mentality is now kind of shifted to, well, maybe this will help us in the grand scheme of things, because you have an opportunity to beat BYU, you have an opportunity to beat Houston, you have an opportunity to beat Oklahoma State. Like, that road to the championship would be extremely helpful for our seeding, and maybe bump us back up to a 2, because I don't know if every conference and every team is going to get that type of opportunity to beat teams that they kind of couldn't beat initially. So I wouldn't even be surprised, like Aiden was talking about it before the show, but even Kansas, with them falling down, it kind of makes their lives a little easier with getting to the championship round. But again, time only tell. It seems to be like a lot of teams in this league this year are very unpredictable. You don't know when they're going to be good. Everyone has the capability of being good. You don't know when their day is coming. So that's the scary part. So when it comes to us, Iowa State, you got to play your best brand of basketball each and every day, and you essentially have to control what you can control. And one of those assets is just us getting healthy again, because I don't know what happened to re-aggravate that Keyshawn calf, but for that to be an issue going into Kansas State, that was a big concern of mine. So definitely want to see, obviously, us just get healthy, and then I can feel really confident about whoever's in front of us, us being able to take down. But to answer your question, I would much rather play Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and like you were saying, a team with something to prove. I remember, especially when Arizona got off to such a bad kind of non-conference, you and I were talking about maybe Cincinnati kind of rounds out that top tier of Big 12 schools between your Kansases, your Iowa States, your Houstons, your Baylors. Maybe Cincinnati's that fifth team, the 13th seed in the Big 12 tournament. So you talk about a team that has something to prove. They had these kind of expectations of this is the year they take that step. It ultimately hasn't happened, and I don't think it's a lack of talent. I think the talent's there. I wouldn't say Wes Miller, the head coach at Cincinnati, I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat, but I don't think he's coaching for his job. I don't know. I'm not as tuned into the Cincinnati head coaching market as I'm sure Cincinnati fans are, but I believe him and TJ started the same year, and I'm not sure if Cincinnati's made a tournament in his time there. So, the leash is getting shorter, and, I'm sure he feels that, and the only way for Cincinnati to even, they're off the bubble, so they're going to have to make a run. And like you said, Iowa State, if you play Oklahoma State, that's a team you lost to. You just lost to BYU on senior night. You're kind of giving Iowa State this path of teams they have plenty of bulletin material on, you got to win these games. And especially we've seen the committee that this is what sucks. We could go on this miraculous run in Kansas City, and I still don't know if the committee gives a shit. Like
Iowa State 4 seed.
Yeah.
I'm like dude, what the hell?
Yeah. Because we went on that great run. We beat Houston, who looked to be a top 2 team last year by 1 million points in the championship. And
we got still
right. And the favor we got was being in UConn's region as a 2 seed. So it's like, well, hell. So I'm not banking on that. But like you said, I think a Cincinnati team with, nothing to lose is scarier than an Oklahoma State team that we are probably biting at the bit to win. And Iowa State should beat either team. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If you want to take yourself seriously as a deep contender in March, you have to beat either of those teams and play BYU. My question about BYU is, I remember last year, they were kind of built to beat us. They had good passing big men. They were this fantastic 3-point shooting team. Jackson Robinson, really talented player. Ali Khalifa was a really talented player for them last year. They've kind of reloaded. They do have a lot of the same guys last year. A benefit of BYU is once the guy's there, they usually stick around. I mean, it takes a certain player to transfer out of that team. So it's a lot. Richie Saunders isn't new. Dalton Cannell? We've seen these guys a time or two. I don't think they're built to beat us though, like they were last year. We got ourselves in such a hole on senior night, but I think they're probably a better matchup this year than they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, and there's small things that can help you against a team like BYU. Like first of all, their big boy, number 13. How do you say his name again? We just talked about him, and I already forgot.
Yeah.
But I
know who you're talking about.
He's the biggest liability where we would break, them down for 30 seconds defensively. They throw up this horse crap shot, and then we just let him grab a board, and then they get a brand new 30 seconds. So really, it's just boxing him out. Also, let him get the ball and foul him. Did you see him shoot free throws? Dog,
it's not comfortable.
I've never seen a more hack-a-shack type player in the Big 12 in a long time. Offensively defensively for BYU, it's a very easy game plan. When he gets the ball, you foul him, and you foul him hard, right? Yeah. And then also too, I just think there needs to just be a bit more foot on the gas type mentality from the entire 40 minutes. Not all right. It's the second half. Let's start trying now. A team who is capable of making threes, a team who is capable of scoring at a high clip, like that, you don't want to take time off. You want to be able to put them away early. Because also too, I just don't think they're that good defensively. It just seemed also too when we really did try to turn on the intensity from a defensive perspective, they really just started doing whatever on offense. They looked lost out there. So I think that game starts and ends with us, and just a matter of what are we going to do about it. But also too, I think again, people just have to be playing at the healthiest they can be playing at. Like, so I don't know if it's going to be worth, going through the gauntlet. I think it can definitely help us for seeding. But I just feel like overall BYU is a very beatable team. Same with Houston. I mean, we were shorthanded there, held our own. Like, our road right now doesn't really scare me. A part of me is just kind of battling, like, should we or should we not go all the way with this? Because some teams that anticipate a deep run for the actual tournament kind of take their foot off the gas in the Big 12 tournament. Baylor's very notorious for doing this. And just, I don't know if we have really the leash to do that right now. So it's all going to depend. But I do think Baylor's a very beatable, not Baylor, BYU is a very beatable team this year.
Even on the BYU, when Keyshawn did play, he looked, when I really notice it is usually after an Iowa State made basket and him getting back on defense. It looks a little awkward. Like the jog or the run back he does, it looks like his legs are just really tight. And he's just not 100%. And I would imagine he, more than anybody on earth, wanted to play senior night at Hilton Coliseum. I saw him get emotional before the game. Like, I know how much Hilton Coliseum means to him. I know how much being an Iowa State Cyclone means to him. But I think, like we saw at Kansas State, if they think they can preserve him, they will. I'm a little interested to see what they do on Wednesday. He would have over a week of rest at that point. So I'm hoping he's ready to go. I'm not sure if he will be 100% the rest of the season. Leg strains are kind of a thing that don't really fully go away. It's just kind of something you have to battle through, and muscle tightness. And like I said, hopefully you're able to, we just saw us beat Kansas State, who I think is kind of in that same tier as Cincinnati and Oklahoma State. Hopefully Keyshawn, playing or not, is not the ultimate decision or not what makes that outcome be a win or a loss. But BYU, that team turns it over so damn much. And I think we found that small ball rotation really worked on defense in kind of creating chaos. But like you said, the problem is rebounding. And the guards really have to crash. Joshua Jefferson is not a naturally talented rebounder. It has to all be effort out of him, and then you really got to tell the Heiseys, the Lipsies to crash. And maybe we don't get as many points off turnovers because all of us are crashing on defensive glass. I would rather that. If you get doubled up on rebounding again by BYU, it's going to be tough sledding because we turned them over 29 times and still didn't get the win. So yeah. I think that is just all, like, TJ constantly talks about points in the paint, turnovers, and rebounding. And it's simple, but you got to be better in rebound. I know you're going to kind of take your lumps if they really lean on that small ball lineup again. Like, you're not going to win every rebounding battle, but it's got to be better than getting doubled up.
And here's the thing. If this is a game where rebounding, and I know we kind of skipped into the hypothetical, what if, like, we're playing BYU now, right? This is a game that obviously we don't need to be worried about right now, but yeah, I do want to entertain kind of the road to what a Big 12 tournament championship is going to look like. Like a game where you're going to need rebounding, when rebounding is going to be a huge priority, probably a good idea to put Demarion Watson in the game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sick and tired of his leash. Anyone on the court, on our team right now, why is his leash so short? Like, this has got to be he has yet to have that kind of Oklahoma type performance this year. I really do believe if we get into a battle with BYU in Kansas City, it's going to be a very coming out opportunity party for Demarion Watson. And I just feel like that's his type of game. That's his bread and butter. I think even in a game like that, he's able to knock down a few shots. He can add a bigger impact for us. So I think he's going to be a huge key addition that I think needs to creep into the rotation, especially if we need to be able to box out. Because if it's going to be like the thing that makes me angry about Jefferson is, like, I've seen him be a good rebounder, and I don't necessarily think you can be a skilled rebounder. It's just a matter of, are you going to go get that ball? Yeah, like it's really that simple. And whether you're tired or not, okay, if you're tired, cool. That would be a good time to put in Watson. Like, I just think that leash has to be a little tighter on Jefferson in those I'm tired moments, if that's how he's gonna look at all of this, because if you're not gonna just try to get a board and let someone else get another board, and now they have the ball for another 30 seconds. Like, you might as well not be on the floor right now. So let's put in someone who can do that while you're catching your breath. And I just feel like putting him in the rotation, especially come BYU, is going to be a necessity, because I think it's going to be something that BYU necessarily isn't exactly ready for, but also I think that can give us a huge advantage, especially on the defensive end.
And I think, again, this is another hypothetical, but that's kind of what a preview show is. If Keyshawn isn't playing, we saw a bunch of offense or defensive substitutions at the end of that BYU game, where it was basically Heisey and Milan subbing in and out for each other, depending on who's on offense and defense. But I mean, if you're looking at a lineup of Taman, Kurt, Heisey, Watson, and Jefferson, and then you sub out, you might even be able to sub out Watson and Milan at that point for offense and defense, and you just got to hope, Milan, if he does get stuck on an island somewhere, that he can hold his own for a possession or two.
Buck up.
Yeah. I mean, now's the time.
And guard, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? I'm so sick of people making excuses for individuals. Like, that comes down to pride. Like, if you can sit here for an entire season and listen to two average guys with very average athleticism say you're a little slow-footed, I would pick up the pace. Like, that's just me. I don't know about him, but that's just me. I need him to buck up. And if he gets on an island, I don't care if you fall. At least I know you're trying, okay? Like, that's what I want to see from now on. I don't want to see hands in pockets, no contest. Kids are just spraying in your face. Pause. But I definitely just need to see better defensive intensity, especially on ball, from Milan Momcilovic, because this is getting crazy to where I understand no one should have to need to like constantly sub in, sub out. We have the opportunity. We have the people on the bench though to be able to do that with. So I need TJ and his staff to be able to take advantage of that while we have it, because I don't know if we're going to be this deep next year. You know what I mean? So we definitely need to have use the depth that we do have right now, if that makes sense.
And Kevin Young, I think that's why you're seeing such a chess match. Kevin Young is obviously an NBA. I mean, he's basically made all of his money in the NBA until he got to BYU. So, and he runs a lot of NBA actions. And like so much of the NBA is, if you're going to switch on defense, get your best offensive player on their worst defender and, set up a spot on the floor where you can attack them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Milan's out there, that's what BYU is going to try to do. But like you said, then guard him. Then take that challenge on the chin and, show him that's a mistake.
Yeah. Like, it's also, and I don't never want to result nor promote violence, but if things get out of hand, just give him a quick little forearm, check him.
Sure.
Just don't go out there and get punked.
Make him honest.
Yeah,
make it honest.
Make him think about it again. Like, I don't know if I want to do that again. I don't know if I want to go left on him one more time. It comes down to overall just having that dog in you, man. Like, I get it. Not everyone's going to be good at everything on the floor every day, but defense is almost inexcusable, especially you're playing for TJ Otzelberger.
Yeah.
Do you know who that man is?
Right.
Like, he eats nails for breakfast, okay? I suggest you play some defense if that's the least we're going to do. Because I know we talk about the offensive inconsistency sometimes, but what I can't have, especially from now on, is defensive inconsistency. Because there's too many other good teams who are extremely solid defensively, and that's what's making them an elite basketball team right now. It's not how many threes they're hitting. It's not how many times they're getting to the free throw line. Like, it's at what you're doing on the defensive end.
Yeah. And the other thing that I really want to avoid starting now is slow starts offensively, because I would say that was kind of the thing that BYU and K-State kind of had in common. The first 10 minutes, excellent on defense, and it just felt like neither game Iowa State was able to kind of punish the other team for, not being able to score the basket. That's when you want to get up, 15-2, 17-4, like have that kind of start where you put the other team in a double-digit deficit kind of right off from the go, especially when you're playing that good at defense. That just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the game. And I talked at length about how good Hilton Coliseum was on senior night against BYU, and it really looked like the BYU players were shook. And that was no different than, 2024 senior night when I think Iowa State was down 14, 15 points in that game against BYU. They came back. Kansas City is not Hilton Coliseum, but it's pretty damn close.
Jinx.
Yeah, it's a Rockets environment, and unless we're playing Kansas, we are almost always, 60, 70% of the crowd is going to be on Iowa State.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is something BYU has to be prepared for. There's been a lot of discourse, Nigel, and I'm sure you haven't seen it on Twitter as much as I have. A lot of this new blood in the Big 12 is begging them to move this thing out of Kansas City. That pisses me off. It makes me mad. Like, I mean,
okay, we talked about the conveniency of, I know where you're going with this, obviously, but this is going to be a continuous problem with both the Big 12 and the Big 10 because we're expanding from east to west. So you're never going to make every student body happy or fan base happy. But what were you going to say? I'm sorry. I just want to put that out.
Here's my thing. They joined our conference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If we joined the Pac-12, I would have no qualms with playing in Los Angeles or San Francisco or Las Vegas. You joined the Big 12. If you want to go back and play basketball with Oregon State, Washington State, I'm sure they'd love to have you. If you want to go back over there and play your conference tournament in Las Vegas with those two teams, by all means. But you joined the Big 12. You knew what you were signing up for. We play our conference tournament in Kansas City, and it rocks. And the other thing, you haven't even been here yet. You haven't been in the Big 12.
What fan base is moaning and groaning about this?
Utah was really loud before the season started.
Utah?
Yeah, and then they suck. Arizona, both the Arizona schools. I mean, I'm sure Colorado is probably kind of equidistant. Maybe they're closer to Las Vegas and they are Kansas City. But like a lot of your kind of bread and butter teams, I mean, I know like Houston's not right next to Kansas City, but Texas schools aren't a super far drive or flight from Kansas City.
It's an easy flight from Texas. What are they, dude? I think these schools out west are just they're a little angry. They got to go put jeans on for the first time in 9 months.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
If you haven't been if you can't have fun in the Power and Light District, if you'd rather be at a casino in Las Vegas, and I understand some people prefer that. Certainly not me. If I can be in the Power and Light District watching Big 12 basketball on that huge amphitheater screen, and it's like 55 degrees out, one, you're going to see every Cyclone dad wearing cargo shorts. If it's anything above 45 degrees, they're wearing shorts. So, like, stop acting like we're going to the Arctic blast in Kansas City. Like, it's not. Yeah, look at Las Vegas and then look at Kansas City. Look at the I-35 corridor. What are we doing?
This is not even a crazy like distance they would have to even travel.
No,
this is probably a 90-minute flight. Like, yeah, dude, that's a power nap. You get some pretzels from the flight attendant and a Sprite, and you're there.
And you're on the other airport.
Like, what are we complaining about? And then
the only place that could
the only thing to do in Kansas City is drink and watch basketball. Oh no, what are we gonna do? Right. That sounds amazing. Right. Come on, guys. You guys got to give things a chance, okay? And in schools who are, like you said, people who are brand new to the party, never even been to the party, they're like, wait, guys, can we have the party at my mom's house? No, go home. No. Like, that's unreal. I'm sorry you had to read that.
Geographically, the only place that might even be literally more central than Kansas City is Oklahoma City. And that is still kind of like smack dab.
That would be worse.
I think so too. I think that's kind of like an NBA, especially with Oklahoma leaving. Like,
yeah, I was trying to think what else would geographically, what else would they want? Where else would they want this to be? The closest option outside of Kansas City would probably be outside of Oklahoma City, Denver.
Right.
And I don't like,
but even then, like, look how much room is around Colorado on that screen. Like, it'd be awesome for the worst seed in the tournament to have it in Denver. But like the other thing, Kansas City, like the city itself gives a shit about the Big 12 tournament. Like they make that a very right. Like that is a huge money making event for that city, and they go all out. None of these other cities,
care.
Right, Las Vegas especially. Las Vegas has at least 2 other conference tournaments. I know the West Coast Conference.
They got
so much stuff going on.
Right. They have blue blood neutral games every year on almost every holiday, plus boxing events, plus Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga. Like, bro, it's
UCF.
They're just another fish in that big ocean. You don't want to be over there. Like
U2 is probably doing a concert at that Sphere thing. Like, what are we doing? Let's play basketball. Roll the ball out.
You want to be what's the phrase? You want to be the big fish in the little pond.
Yep.
That's what you want to be. And that's what the Big 12 tournament is this week, is you are the event in Kansas City. Plus, have these West Coast folks even tried the barbecue there yet? Until you do that, I'd shut the hell up, respectfully.
I was just thinking about we should probably book reservations for some of the barbecue places, because those things, it is tough to get a table by Thursday in Kansas City. Yeah.
We'll get back to Dylan and Nigel here in just a couple of minutes. Want to thank the people who make this all possible for us, and that's our presenting sponsors of postseason coverage here on Cyclone Fanatic. And that starts with our friends at Keen Project Solutions. They're celebrating 10 years of innovation, serving ag, industrial, and commercial customers with pride. And they are currently hiring engineers and project managers who want to do more than just work. They want to make a difference. They are opening a new location in Kansas City, too. So we're all going to Kansas City. Keen Project Solutions opening things up in Kansas City, baby. It all coming together. Keen Project Solutions, great people, make a great company. And last but certainly not least, I was talking about spring earlier with my friends at Country Landscape. It is about grilling season. Shout out to Fairway Meat and Grocery. Nobody has better meats than Fairway Meat and Grocery. You can load up on quality meats. I like the baby back ribs. That is my go-to. Some people prefer the spare ribs. I prefer the baby back ribs to smoke that son of a gun on the old Traeger. And I can't wait to start doing that soon. Thanks to Fairway Meat and Grocery, a longtime partner of ours here at Cyclone Fanatic. Let's finish up our Big 12 tournament preview show. Nigel Dyson, Dylan Coon. Take it away, boys.
We got a little sidetracked there. I do want to talk, again, this is assuming we beat the winner of Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and assuming we beat BYU. Let's talk about Houston. Yep. OJ Cryer just got his kind of senior night win. I know his Baylor Houston kind of passed, went into Waco, won on their senior night as a senior for Houston. That is disrespectful. Houston's a wagon.
Houston's a wagon. Jeremy Roach went out sad. Scott Drew hugged on LJ Cryer like he was still his own. So I think even he misses him. But hey, man, I would expect you to be this dominant against your old team when you've been in college basketball for 9 years. You know, you're 36 years old. You got 2 kids at home, a wife, a mortgage. I get it. They're a wagon, but they're an old wagon, and eventually old wagons need an oil change.
Sure.
And I think that oil change is going to come once again in the big. Well, no, this would be we would have to see them in the semifinal, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Because being a 5 seed, you got to play 4 days instead of 3, correct?
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, so
it's like an AAU tournament.
Yeah, I don't love that, but it seems like it's going to have to. We've done it before with the 2019 team. That's why I brought it up, because like we were literally the 5th seed. Yeah. We ended up playing Kansas in the championship.
I think so.
It was like Devin Dotson in them.
Grimes, maybe.
Yeah, Quinn Grimes, that team. But we've done this before. We've went on this type of run before. It's very doable. Playing Houston in a semifinal wouldn't be the most ideal. And ironically, we might have to see Kansas again. If they can go on a run, that might be the final.
Yeah.
You know, we don't.
And like, I think Friday is a really, like, to me, that's the goal. Like, nobody, not the committee, not the fans, no one in the country is going to fault Iowa State for losing to Houston. Mm-hmm. I think it's been clear that Houston's the number 1 team in the Big 12. Texas Tech, Arizona, Iowa State, BYU might be the hottest team in the Big 12. Houston's probably the best. But like, if we make it to Friday and we lose, I don't think that's anything that the committee can take away from us. I think that is where whatever wherever the committee has us now, if we lose to Houston, we're going to stay in the exact same spot, in my opinion. But if you beat Houston, we've been kind of talking about, well, how hard do we go in Kansas City? If you beat Houston, you better win on Saturday. Because, don't play 4 games in 4 days for nothing. So, Houston's kind of the either lose on Friday or win the whole damn thing. That is kind of my mindset. And losing on Wednesday or Thursday causes concern.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, though, is with a team that has dealt with as many injuries as us and sicknesses, does one prioritize health over a run in the Big 12 tournament?
That's a good question. I think it's kind of like health or swagger. And I think you can spin zone either one as which one is better for this team right now. I think winning 4 games in 4 days really gives us a lot of kind of psychological juice, mental, we can do this in March, where I think, you lose on Thursday, let's say to BYU, that gives you an extra at least day, probably 2 days of rest going into, you could be playing next Thursday on a, hopefully Milwaukee, but they could send you really anywhere in the country.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely want to be able to get our rest and know that our team is rested. Excuse me. But I think just overall, beating Houston would be huge, obviously. But I don't know if that'll kind of drain us of all of our energy for the tournament. You know what I mean? I don't know if we might be too gassed for the Big 12 tournament, and then we lay an egg there, and now we're going into the actual tournament without that much confidence, or just lack thereof. I don't know. There's a lot of questions I have going into this tournament. I'm gonna have to see 2 games. I'll have a better gauge after probably BYU, obviously, but definitely want to be able to be in a position to beat Houston would be huge. These first three games would almost be season saving games in my opinion, just because they're all games we've lost. What are the odds of that?
Right.
You know? So I definitely think there's a huge opportunity, obviously, this entire week. But Houston is definitely going to be, I don't know, man, like I said before, they're a beatable team. I know they can shoot better from the 3, but the fact that we threw Cade Kelderman out there, and I'm not saying Cade Kelderman is a trash player. He held his own. Kid had 2 assists against Kansas State. He's not a scrub. He could probably start at Iowa right now. That's a conversation for another day. But I just think we're going to be all right. I just think it comes down to, once again, being healthy. But I think Houston's even a very beatable game. But those 3 games would be huge if we can get them back to back.
Yeah, I think it totally is about just getting your mojo back. In January, I would have told you to buy tickets to San Antonio.
You did.
By God, everybody should fear us. Yeah, that team looked incredible. And that team is still here. It's the same damn guys. I know they have it in them. I've seen it. I saw it on the road at Texas Tech. I saw it at home against Kansas. We beat Marquette. We took Auburn to the wire. Keyshawn looked like John Morant when he was in Maui. We have the dudes. So, it's how much do they have left in the tank? It's kind of what is their mindset going into Kansas City? How much does this mean to them as a team? I know TJ is going to have them amped up and juiced up, but it ultimately comes down to the players on, how much does it mean to you? And like we said, I really think the 2 teams that really show out, and Kansas fans only say it when they win, but it's Iowa State and Kansas that have kind of, more often than not, really done well in Kansas City. And anytime Kansas loses early, they say they weren't trying. So, like you said, I think Kansas has the guys to make a run. Aiden, can you throw the bracket back up on the Big 12? Because I really think Kansas' side of the bracket, you've got Texas Tech. Arizona has kind of been slowing to a halt. You saw their coach, Tommy Lloyd. Did you see those comments? He was kind of dogging on the fans a little.
I did.
Basically saying their arena only gets loud in, big marquee games. He kind of said Iowa State was their game where they really showed out. And he was you got to understand, Kansas is showing out for Central Florida. He was if we want to be taken seriously in this conference. So I think Arizona's a little shaky, and you always got the Caleb Love factor. Is he going to go 2 for 15 or 9 for 12? So, here we go. Goo.
Places were, I want to read this. The last 2 places we played were electric. I'm an Arizona guy, and I love Arizona. This is not an indictment. Did I say that right? Indictment. Indictment on our fans, but we have got work to do. There's a gap. There's gaps between Kansas and Iowa State and us in these game day atmospheres and their fan support. It was awesome today. I was just out there listening to their senior speeches. I wasn't listening. I had to speak on the radio, but 90% of their fans are still there 20 minutes after listening to senior speeches. It's a pretty special place. Well, it's pretty special.
So kind of a backhanded compliment. He's like, This is awesome, but Kansas and Iowa State are better than awesome. Like that is kind of the... And like, I know Arizona coming in, I think that was the big addition over the offseason where it was like, thank God. Like, because those other 3 schools can be good at basketball. They are not good at it right now. Yeah. So, like, Arizona should be in that marquee of Kansas, Iowa State, Houston. I mean, BYU's got more money than Mormon Jesus, so they can pay AJ DeBanza to come for a year. And, like, they might be in that tier too, but I think Arizona is trying to be taken seriously.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Arizona I know Arizona from a basketball perspective, but I also know Arizona from a school perspective. And your school perspective, like your culture that you set as a school, plays into how you treat athletics.
Yeah.
And the reality of Tucson, Arizona, majority of those kids are just there to be frat boy all-stars, frat girl all-stars. You know, they're not there for the love of the game. I think Iowa State gets a tremendous mix of... Yeah, we got our frat boy all-stars. I happen to be friends with a few of them. But, you know, we still got kids out here who are sickos, who love ball, who are just very passionate about the sports here, and they want to see them do well. I think a lot of these kids are just a little prima donna-ish, you know, they got pampered bottoms, and I think win or lose, their lives are going to still be the same after this. And I just don't think they're as gritty of a people. So therefore, they're always going to have that issue. And then when you always have the kind of pull that Arizona does to where you can kind of get these high marquee names for the last 10 years, from Aaron Gordon all the way to Bryce James coming in a few years, like, they're always going to have top-notch dudes. So it's not really a shock to them anymore. So it's not really anything to get excited for about Arizona, because Arizona also is not a team that is also going to make a Final Four. And even in the past few years when we thought they could, they didn't. They lost to Princeton. They lost games they weren't supposed to lose. You know, so they're just not. I think right when they start to believe, the team folds. Yeah. And when the team needs them the most, they're nowhere to be found as fans. So I think it's a really toxic environment to be an Arizona basketball fan right now. But also, too, just in general, like if you look back at their history, and they're just a team that can never figure it out. So it's hard to say our fans aren't as consistent, but us as a basketball team, we're not consistent either. So what's up with that? You know, it's like, dude, you are what you eat. It's like we need to look in the mirror before we can start yelling at frat kids for not coming in and screaming at the games. Like, let's be so aware right now. Let's be self-aware at the end of the day.
One of my favorite that just like the kids are going to be all right is this time of year shooting like high school basketball. These small town student sections go nuts. Like there is like, there is a game being played on the court, and there's a game being played between the 2 student sections. And it is, and like those kids graduate high school and then go to Iowa State. So we're getting like the all-star team of student sections. And like Keyshawn Gilbert said it best. He was like, if you're not like all about basketball, this place probably isn't for you. Like, if you're a student at Iowa State, not shit going on February 12th on a Saturday when it's 10 below out. So you might as well, you know what I mean? And like you said, it's like the degree of people are just kind of different. Like it's just like a different kind of devotion you have to drive through a blizzard to watch a 40-minute college basketball game and like go all out and lose your voice by the time the final buzzer hits.
Well, I think too, it's just like, those warmer schools have a tougher time with student sections, you know. Yeah. The dynamic of not having much to do makes a student section stronger. Like when you live in Tucson, Arizona, and you have options. Like you can go to this basketball game. But there's also a pool party 2 blocks down the road. I don't know if you want to rip that with me real quick.
Yeah.
There's just I think not only them, but I think all of the Pac-12 schools have that issue, especially in those warmer regions where, look, man, like if basketball's good, great, but they're not going to really care until the big time games. Like I didn't hear any chatter from Arizona State until they miraculously had to play us in the Big 12 tournament. Now they're talking crazy sideways out their neck like they've been established for years, like they're Georgia. Like it's just, they're just a very fair weather fan because they live in a lot of fair weather. Like that's
by definition.
Yes, that's who they are. And I don't care if they hear this. I don't care if they see this. I got a few friends that are Arizona fans. To hell with them. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You guys are mad because your product is not consistent when you're not consistent as fans. And then the program is mad at the fans because they're not consistent. It's just like each party is mad at each other for not being consistent. So maybe let's just try to be more consistent, you know?
Yeah.
Let's show up. That's step one. And it just seems like they can't figure that out. So maybe they're a little too sunburnt in the brain at this point, outside of just being externally sunburnt.
The 2 teams that really scare me in that side of the bracket, maybe Texas Tech scares me. I think Texas Tech is a really good basketball team. And we're talking about teams that could kind of, play their way into the 2 line. I think Texas Tech, if they win the Big 12 tournament, they should be in the conversation for a 2 seed. But like Kansas, like you said, and even like I've been looking at some March Madness, projected brackets from different bracketologists and bracket matrix and all this shit. Kansas as a 7 seed should scare the hell out of a 2 seed because this team was the consensus number 1 team in the country before the season started. Like they have a stupid amount of talent. Maybe even so much so that it doesn't work on a basketball court. They might have too much talent, which is an absurd thing to say, but I think there is some truth to it. So they have too many guys that can take over a game where it doesn't work, but all you need is for that to somehow click. And we've seen this shit happen. Like we've seen crazier things happen in March, and they have all of the weapons to kind of do it. And I know it hasn't been smooth. Zeke Mayo's play has gotten worse, and I think that has really hurt Kansas towards the end of the season because he was kind of the bright spot for them early on of like, at least this kid can absolutely stroke it. Now that he's not, now that he can't
this ain't
shoot
South Dakota State. That's the problem.
That's the truth to it.
Damn Summit League.
It's a long-ass season in the Big 12, and you're not playing St. Thomas or Omaha every other week, and it's big boy basketball, but I still think Kansas can make a run in the bottom of that bracket.
Yeah, no, and honestly, like off of the situation you told me about when I brought it up earlier, you kind of deflected it, but that's okay. Because honestly, if we're not the 2019 Iowa State Cyclones, they sound like they're the 2019 Iowa State Cyclones.
I like that. I like that one better.
So if you mean to tell me they got a lot of talent on that team, they're a team that on paper makes it seem like, they can make a deep run, but in the grand scheme of things, they probably don't. We're probably gonna look back and be like, how did that not work?
Right.
But I think they fit that mold perfectly to where they can kind of just because they kind of sucked during the regular season, it kind of benefited them at the end where they can make kind of that run they're trying to make or need really to establish themselves as like a 4 and above type of seed. Like I think even with them winning it all this tournament, I think they would still probably at the best be a 4 seed, which would still be not ideal.
I think 5 or 6 is probably their ceiling. I mean, they're almost a 7 across the board right now, and they still have the Kansas factor.
Entertain this. Say they beat. I don't want to say us. Say Houston beats us, and then they play Kansas, and then Kansas beats Houston.
Like if they beat Texas
worth
Tech,
a 4 seed.
If they beat Texas Tech, Arizona, and Houston,
come on now.
And they're Kansas. I think that's the other.
Yeah,
Kansas might be the only team in the Big 12.
Back.
Right. Bill Self, Kansas. Yeah.
It's inevitable. The committee is going to get to kissing behinds over there. Yeah. And I just think things are going to shake in their favor. And I think right now they have just as open of a window to win this thing as we do. Obviously, just because I think we have a cool opportunity of to beat a plethora of teams that we haven't beaten. Right. And then on this side, It's all teams we have beaten. Now can you do it again for the championship? That's our road. Kansas would just be like, you haven't beaten most of these teams.
Now it's a
try again.
Yeah.
You want to have one more go at it? Like they're two very different roads, but they can still, very much help you come tournament time. And I think obviously more than it would help us winning the whole damn thing, I think it would definitely help Kansas winning the whole damn thing. Not only because of wins, but also just because we know who the committee is and we know how much they feel about our boy Billy and the Jay Birds or I'm very on the fence of like, I don't want to make it seem we're getting behind them or getting behind their bandwagon, but definitely can see a run within them. So who's to say? It's only time will tell. But obviously, I think out of every team here, teams that can make a run right now, it's going to be us in Kansas.
Yeah. Outside of the top, especially out of the top four, like I know BYU is really hot. Excuse me, but I think they're a team that has kind of overachieved this season. And like you said, I think it's the hungrier teams that usually do better in these kind of environments where you have back-to-back games, you feel doubted, you have that chip on your shoulder. Those are the teams that usually can talk themselves into the kind of craziness and, maniac behavior it takes to win 4 games in 4 days. Like, I think no better example is than North Carolina State last year. Like, that team had absolutely nothing to lose. And then the coach got fired today. But
yeah.
Keep your head on a swivel.
Serves right. You could be next.
Yeah.
Nobody's safe. No, but I'm so glad you brought this up because literally, I think that a team. Trying to see. Honestly, a team like Kansas could go on that type of run, given the talent they have. Because if a team like North Carolina State can make that type of run, what's leaving Kansas out of that equation? Like they can't do the same thing. So I definitely think, again, cards have to just fold the right way. Certain teams have to lay down. I know Baylor is notorious for laying down in this tournament. I could also see Texas Tech laying down in this tournament just because it's like, again, usually Texas Tech is more of the hungry team, but in years where they're not, they don't win the tournament. So I take the back. No, because even when they made the Final Four in 2019, they didn't win.
We did.
So I think I just think like you said, the hungrier teams tend to do better. I think, for lack of better words, we happen to be one of those hungry teams. But hopefully we don't run into, on the other side of the bracket, a team that is on that NC State type run, because obviously we're not playing DJ Burns anytime soon, but just people just turn it on in March, man. It's weird. And I'm just seeing kind of the energy that, St. Louis brought this weekend. I know some madness is around the corner and nobody's safe from here on out. So everyone's got to play their A game, and it's now or never time. I'm excited, but I'm also terrified at the same time because any day can be your last. Yeah.
It is the era or the time of the year where everything is single elimination. You get one game, you get 40 minutes. It usually comes down to about the final 2 on who's going to win these games. And we've kind of seen mixed results. We've seen Iowa State play really well down the stretch, especially earlier in the season. We've seen us struggle, especially in that BYU game in the final 2 minutes, whether it's regulation or overtime. So it's kind of going to be, who are you when, the shit hits the fan? When it's a tie game with 2 minutes left, what team are we going to see come out of the huddle? I do want to look big picture really quick. We've been kind of talking about the March Madness seed line. I would say unless we lose on Wednesday, especially with the win against Kansas State, I think unless we lose on Wednesday, we're pretty safe as a 3 seed. If we lose on Wednesday, I think we have a chance to drop down to a 4 seed. But another thing that pisses me off, if you're going to punish us for losing in the Big 12 tournament this year, why the hell did you not reward us for winning it last year? Like, if you're not gonna bump teams up for doing well, you can't knock teams down for doing bad. And I think that is kind of some of the coaching schools of thought, is when you see those teams lay down, they're like, well, the committee doesn't give a shit about this, so why should we? And to a degree, I can understand. If that's what you're going to talk yourself into, I see where you're coming from. But Do you see any, do you still think we can be a 2 seed? I guess is what I'm asking. Because you're probably looking at, just off the top of my head, Duke, Auburn, Houston, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Michigan State, St. John's. Those are kind of the top 8 teams. Do you see us leapfrogging any of those? It's probably St. John's and Michigan State are the bottom 2 of that 8.
Tennessee maybe, but out of at this point, given how hot all of those teams are, well, no, actually, I take it back because Auburn really crapped themselves this week.
They're they might have. We were talking about this last week. I bet Duke's the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, and I'm terrified of that for other reasons, but I digress. But for Auburn's sake, poop has been running down their leg all week.
Losing to Bama on senior night, to Janai Broom's credit, he played phenomenal basketball.
At the buzzer, though.
That's tough. And Mark Sears had a bad game. It was kind of like a Caleb Love. Grant Nelson was really the Alabama player, and then Phylon,
And then Grant Nelson... He puts people on a poster. Oh, it was nails. It was nails. I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I was in my chair at the Enterprise Arena going absolutely crazy when Sears hit the shot. But I don't know if I don't want to say they can fall down to a 2 seed because I just don't think given their schedule they'll do that. But I think it's gonna be better to see. Because will there still be AP? Will there be a final AP ranking tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how far they fall down.
Yeah.
Because Michigan State has been on a run.
Yeah.
Alabama, big win. So that'll keep them kind of where they're at or a spot higher probably.
St. John's got a big win at Marquette.
St. John's got a big game. So I think they've kind of secured a 2 seed. I think did Tennessee win? Who did Tennessee play?
I think so. They beat Mississippi State, maybe one of the Burgundy teams in the SEC.
Yeah, I really thought Auburn was gonna the Auburn shakiness of last week. I thought it was gonna shake up. Obviously, the two seed line, but no one else really lost. So I don't know if we get to a 2 seed. We could probably get top 3 seed, or bottom 2 seed. But it would it's all gonna determine on how quickly and how bad any of those teams lose if they lose early in their respective tournaments.
Right.
But I think St. John's is in a situation where they can go take it all just to take it. I think still the SEC is kind of a coin flip. I don't know who's going to win that one between Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, and Alabama. So that I think that is going to really determine on seedings is the SEC tournament.
I think it sucks is I think Michigan State and St. John's are probably on the 7, 8 or the worst 2 seeds. And I think pretty easily they're the best teams in their respective conferences. I think St. John's is the best team in the Big East, and I think Michigan State's the best team in the Big Ten.
Well, they are. They're the regular season champions. That's not an unpopular opinion.
Right, but that's what I don't expect them to lose early in their conference tournament is what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not expecting either of those teams to slip up because they have the best seed in their conference tournaments.
But that's my thing though. It's with really there being a rock fight in that kind of Final Four of the SEC tournament. However that turns out, they might be 2 teams that don't need to win at all. They can kind of lose on purpose, get some more rest in, and then that's a 2 seed you do not want to see in the Elite 8. Yeah. Michigan State or St. John's, I'd rather eat chalk for 3 days, no water, a Popeye's biscuit, no water. I would rather do so many other things than play either of those 2 teams right now, just because they're hot, they're gritty. They have great coaching, Hall of Fame coaching behind them. It's just a perfect recipe for a 1 seed upset, which is why I'm so terrified of Duke potentially being the number 1 overall seed. Because we know outside of UConn that hasn't always had the best luck attached to it. So who knows? But right now they're also rolling too. So I'm not really too entirely nervous about them. I think I'm a little traumatized from Matt McQuaid and Kenny Goins and those trash Michigan State teams. All those kids are playing in Belgium now. It's just PTSD.
It hurts.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing, man. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy to lose to a team like that.
One thing I'm secretly hoping for, and we're going to get banned for giving Kansas this much good press. If Kansas is a 7 seed and they beat a 2 seed in the round of 32, and let's say we're the 3 seed above them, and then you're playing Kansas to go to the Elite Eight, that is cinema. If we beat Kansas to go to the Elite Eight, no notes. I don't care that Kansas is a 7 seed. If we beat Hunter Dickinson, make him go out sad to make an Elite Eight run, I think that's best case scenario. I would rather beat Kansas than just about any 2 seed that we could see in March. And because Kansas would be a 7 seed. But that just would mean more to me. Huh?
Like I think about all the 2 seeds. I don't think they can beat any of those teams right now.
It's March.
You're right. Who knows?
You would think no, but I have seen crazier things. I know some of the old heads would love to beat Michigan State. I was 1 year old when Iowa State lost to Michigan State in the Elite Eight, where Michigan State. No, I don't even think I was 1 yet. I was 2 months old. That was 1999. So I don't remember that one too well, but I know a lot of Iowa State fans would love to see Michigan State to go to the Elite Eight. You weren't alive yet, so
yeah, no, I wasn't even a thought yet, but yeah, it's okay. I know that with my fandom kind of splitting down the middle, it's a little tougher for me because I personally don't really want either team to see Michigan State. I would much rather have them be at the other side of the border. Bracket. If we have to see them in the Final Four for both teams. I'm referring to for this. Just because those Elite Eights, man, they get scary because they're all such good games, and at that point, seeds do not matter.
Yeah. So 2 teams are playing for the Final Four. That's what's on the line, and exactly like you said, seeds don't matter.
So it's a matter of personnel and moment is what scares me of why you don't want to play that team, not because of the seed they are. So definitely want to try to avoid those 2 guys at all costs. Just don't make any eye contact until you have to, and then when we do have to fight them, just look them in the eye and hit them with a line from Rocky. Just I must break you, and then let's try to break him. But yeah, those teams are definitely the most scariest, I should say, because I'm not really shaken by the rest of that clan of the SEC is not rattling me. They're really not. It's these other teams that aren't getting all this press and attention that I'm more worried about because I don't know that much about them. It's almost like we've been it's an oversaturation of SEC talk this entire year that it's almost like they're I feel like the players themselves are kind of walking in with this attitude of we're supposed to be here. So I would much rather fear a team that's we're kind of flying under the radar. Let's use that to our advantage. So definitely want to. You got to keep your head on a swivel. Like the NC State coach, nobody's job right now is safe.
Damn. He said in his official statement that he's hitting the transfer portal.
Yeah, not the time to crack jokes, buddy. Yeah. You got to sell your house. I would worry about that first.
Your kids are moving to school district.
That's like Steve Prohm cracking a joke after just getting fired from Murray State for the second time. He's like, entering the transfer portal.
Right.
My recruitment is open.
Read the room.
Oh, my God.
Nigel, going into Kansas City, what would you say is a success for this team? Is it a championship or bust, or is it, make it to Friday, play Houston, and kind of see where that game takes us?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be, let's try to beat every team that you lost to in the regular season.
Sure.
I think that's going to do a huge boost for people's confidence. Hoping that obviously Texas Tech doesn't make the final, because if they do, they're going to have that kind of mojo of we didn't beat these guys. They beat us on our floor in overtime. We were right there. I just think that's a perfect scenario to set us up to be the hunted instead of the huntee. But other than that, given where this is essentially a tournament that's a home game, given how well we travel to Kansas City. Would like to see us win it all, but I'm more just focused on right now up until after Houston. Let's just try to win every game. Let's beat every team we haven't beaten. So hopefully this would have to, essentially for this to work out, Oklahoma State would have to beat Cincinnati, which I really actually would prefer. I kind of want, but that's kind of my goal, is trying to just beat every team you didn't get a chance to beat in the regular season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think the championship this year is make or break, but I do think this team needs to be able to stretch together some wins. And like you said, beating teams you haven't beaten makes it all the sweeter. And I like our draw in that aspect, that we are kind of surrounded by teams that we have lost to, especially recently. I mean, BYU was less than a week ago right now, and Oklahoma State is not too far from memory. Houston's even in the back half of the season. So you're getting these teams that you're pretty familiar with. You kind of just played. They're fresh in your mind. So I'm with you. Let's make a run.
A lot of those teams didn't play us fully healthy. So they got tape on us. That ain't even the full team. Right. It's not even a team you would throw out there. Like, what would you go pick Caden Kelderman up 90 feet? Like, no, like you have to come correctly with everyone hopefully being fully healthy. So I think that's also going to be another advantage. But also too, it proves to the team themselves, hey, this was a fluke. We weren't supposed to lose in Stillwater. We weren't supposed to lose to BYU on senior night. We weren't supposed to lose to Houston if we had a healthy team. Like, all of that was on the table. Now let's go show America that this was not a fluke.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and I'll be in Kansas City for better or worse. As Fran Fraschilla famously says, last one in Ames, turn off the lights, because that whole city's going to be in Kansas City. I'm looking forward to it. It's always a blast. I love being down there. For the new schools, give it a damn chance before you move it to Las Vegas, you losers.
Or just shut up. How about that?
Shut up. Shut up.
Y'all aren't even names that are like even in the conversation of college basketball's elite. So let's pipe down, get your duffel bag, get on the plane, and be quiet. That's it. That's it. You go to Kansas City, you take your team out for some barbecue, and you go back to the hotel till you got to play. And if you really don't like it that much, how about you lose in the first round?
Amen.
Just throw in the towel.
Amen.
Since none of this matters. Just throw in the towel. You don't need this, right? You're
in a
basketball.
State. Yeah, get out of here.
You made the national championship with Andre Miller in 1998. Kiss my behind with that. That is, dude, like, you have to know who you are to be able to complain about that. If Kansas has an issue with that, then okay, maybe we'll listen. If we had an issue with that, maybe we'll listen. But I don't want to hear nothing out of UCF. I don't want to hear anything out of Utah. I don't want to hear anything out of Arizona and Arizona State. Like, let's just pipe down, please.
Show up and show out. That's all I got. Let them cook.
Let them cook, baby. Let's go. Let's win the damn thing.